Hi, everyone. Hello, hello. Thank you for being here. I'm really excited today because I have just a powerhouse couple on my channel with me today. This is Dave and Lori from eBliss Reseller Solutions. So just to kind of tell you a little bit about who they are and how we've been working with one another, they run a really cool company. I think they've really thought hard about some of the pain points that we as resellers face. I know for me personally, some of those pain points are inventory, like storing it, keeping track of it in a way where I'm not losing stuff, and then shipping. And shipping, personally, I don't mind that much, but it takes up a lot of time, especially as you start to sell more and more. And so they have thought long and hard about this business and actually reached out to see if I would be, if I wanted to try it out. And so they have my inventory now. I have been making sales, and it's been really cool seeing those things make their way to their new homes without having to put in the work and, just freeing up space in my own house. And I wanted to make sure that I was able to try them out before having them on my channel and promoting them and having them talk about, their company, because if it was garbage, I would not have them here, because I don't want you guys to invest any money or energy into something that isn't really going to help you scale or help your reselling business. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Dave and Lori from eBliss, and I'm going to have them talk to you a little bit about their company, what it is that they do, because I'm sure they can do it a lot more eloquently than I did. And we'll go from there. Hi, guys.
Hi,
Hello.
Becky. Thank you for having us again. We're so excited to talk about eBliss. We have been eBay resellers for about 8 years. And during the course of that time, we realized that there was a need for thrifters like us to have an alternative way for them to grow their businesses versus the way we did it. We did it the old-fashioned way, as we call it, when we got a warehouse and we hired employees and we trained them and we managed them and we had to commit to a lease and all the things that go with that. And it worked, but we had to expend a lot of time, effort, commitment, and money into that process. And so after a while, we thought, well, we have a pretty good thing going here for us. It was working really well for us and what we do. We figured, well, what if we were able to offer that same expertise and service and everything that we're doing for others that sell similar items like we do? And that's where the idea came from. And then we realized in our research and development phase that there really wasn't a really good option for those resellers out there who sell one-off thrifted individual items like a lot of Poshmark sellers do, and a lot of eBayers. So we developed eBliss specifically for those kind of resellers who would like to outsource that part of their business, but have difficulty doing it because most fulfillment companies really require you to sell multiples of the same item or new things. And so, yeah, that's where it came from. And as a result, we're finding that our clients are able to either have so much more freedom in their day and their week, and or grow their businesses to a point where they wouldn't have been able to before because they did have space and challenge storage limitations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, most people that have around 500 listings typically spend around 5 to 7 hours a week picking, packing, shipping, hauling everything to the post office, and that doesn't include losing items. I mean, we all know how it is to not have a good inventory control process in place. So we're excited to get the freedom back to resellers, thrifters in particular, who are losing that many hours a week. Many of our clients use those hours to go thrifting more and get more items, because on average, most thrifters can get around $150 to $200 worth of value an hour at thrift stores. So they're excited because now they can grow their business if they want to, and or just have the free time.
Yeah. So let me ask you something. First of all, are you guys in your warehouse right now?
We are in our existing space, correct.
Awesome. And that's pretty cool to kind of see the space and see all the bins and stuff. I know one of the things you guys really pride yourselves on, and I can definitely speak from experience in regards to this, is just how organized you guys are and the attention to detail that you pay. I can, like I said, speak from experience because I have seen all the documents. I have worked with them on just how everything works. And I know you're really proud too of like your bins and the way that you store, your different clients' inventory. Can you talk a little bit about that? Just because I know there are some people who are like, you're giving them a lot of trust and a lot of, just to throw everything their way and assume that they'll do a good job with it.
Totally. That's a completely valid point. But we modeled eBliss exactly pretty much after our own eBay business, which, like I said, we have over 4,000 individual listings on eBay across 2 accounts. And so we've been managing those items ourselves for years. And so we do use a bag and bin system. So each of our listing goes into a bag, and then we have a very specific SKU sticker that we apply to the bag, and that gets put into the listing itself. And that has information that's helpful to us to find the item when it sells, and with other things too. But it keeps things really simple. It keeps things really organized. And with regard to eBliss, each client has their own set of bins. We never commingle other clients' items with other items together, because that would be a recipe for disaster. Yeah. So there's dedicated space in these bins that are closed, they're secure in our warehouse that, is sprinklered and 24/7 security monitored, all that sort of thing. So we keep our eBliss clients' items just like we do our own. And that's where I think we're like resellers for other resellers. And I think that's where a lot of it comes into play and helps.
Yeah. That makes sense. So I see the question already, and I knew this was going to be a popular one. Someone asked, how much does it cost, right? So here's kind of how I want you to answer this, though. If you're comfortable sharing, you were talking about how you had your own warehouse and you had to pay for the lease, you had to pay for the space. And, if you're comfortable sharing what that amount looked like, just because I think a lot of people would like to scale, but they're limited by the amount of space that they have. Okay, hold on. Okay, you froze a little bit. I didn't know if I was frozen, but I think we're good now.
Okay,
so,
sorry.
No, you don't have to apologize. It's not your fault. But yeah, so I know some people are limited by just the amount of space that they have. And so that's the natural next step, is they have to rent a space. There are people doing all kinds of things. So if you feel comfortable sharing, or even what you've heard other people doing as far as, finding a space to store more stuff. And then if you want to talk about the pricing model for eBliss, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'll talk about just the options. Most people work out of their house as a side hustle. It's quick, it's fulfilling, it's fun, it's slush money. And what happens is they realize this is successful. Let me keep on going. And then eventually their inventory takes over their basement or their garage or their spare bedroom. And then they need help. Now, then it turns into like a full-time job. Then it feels like a job. You're working in your business, not on it, as we call it. And that was me when I first started out, just doing it as a side hustle. I brought it to the level where I was like, I need outside space. This is taking over our basement. This is no good. So I needed close to 1,000 square feet. I had 1,000 listings at the time, and I wanted to grow. The problem is when you look to get warehouse space, it's not like a storage unit. You have to sign a 3 to 5 year lease. There's a commitment there. And then, exactly. And then on top of that, you want to hire help because you don't want to do it all yourself. So that's the big hurdle that a lot of resellers face. Some venture into the storage unit, 10 by 10 or 10 by 20. And that is outside. There's no internet, there's no heat. And they find themselves driving to their storage unit, picking up the items, bringing it back. And they waste so much time doing that. So we made the commitment to go into a 1,000 square foot place. This was a few years ago. So that was the cost to get into that. So if you want to, Laura, talk about the eBliss cost.
Right. Yeah. So, eBliss is a way in order to scale your business without having to commit and make those commitments and upfront costs. Because typically when you go into a space, you get more than you need. You start out here and you want to grow to here, but you have to pay for the whole thing. So eBliss is much better because you only pay for what you use and it'll grow with you. So that works out really well. In terms of the actual cost.
Yeah, the actual cost, most of our clients on average have around 400 listings. And what we do is we work with them. We provide them the bags and the boxes, and we provide them with a FedEx shipping label to send in all of their existing inventory to us. Once we receive that, we receive it, we put it in the bins on our shelves, and they're off and running. So that's how we get their initial inventory. So what happens is the next stage is they're going to be selling things. They may be selling 20 to 30 items a month. Our service is broken down into three actual components. It's receiving items on a monthly basis. We have a charge for that. It's the monthly storage per item. And then it's also the back end, which is the fulfillment, which is the picking, the packing, and getting to the carrier, the items. So all in from start to finish, each item is going to probably, depending on how long it stays on our shelves, is going to range anywhere from $4 upwards to $8. And the $8 is typically something that'll sell 10 to 12 months. Take 10 to 12 months to sell.
So just to make certain points clear, I've heard I think it's you guys talk about how this is similar to Amazon FBA in the sense that you send stuff into Amazon, they store it. When it sells, they are the ones that ship it. But what's different about you guys in Amazon FBA is that there are fees for Amazon FBA tied around the gross sales.
Right.
The price tag of the item that sells, that doesn't matter to you guys. All that the person is paying for, regardless of if it's a $25 item or a $1,000 item, is just that you guys are storing it and shipping it out. So there's no inflation as the price of the item goes higher, or, oh, it's a cheaper item, so they didn't take as much. It really is just the amount that of time, like you said, Dave, that it's in your guys's warehouse. Can you break that down even a little bit more in terms of how much does it cost per month for it to sit on your shelves?
Right. Our storage fees range anywhere from, I think it's 43 cents to 68 cents, depending on how much you have stored with us. So the more you have stored, the less it is per listing. So yeah. And to your point, that's why Amazon, I believe, because they take a portion of the sale, they are concerned about when it sells. That's why they do make you, they charge you extra if it's there for a long time or during peak season. We don't do that. And because we're not tied to that price, that's another reason why our services might not be best suited for all sellers. Because if your average sale price of your items is $20, it may not make sense for you. I mean, but that's a personal decision every reseller has to make, because if you've got the volume, then it might make sense for you. So it really depends. We really can't say for sure who it works for precisely, because you have to look at all these variables within the business, and every business is unique.
Right. And people value their time. That's what this comes down to. Most resellers get into the business because it's the flexibility and the freedom. But once they reach a certain level, the freedom isn't there anymore.
Yeah.
You are tethered to your daily shipping, especially on eBay, when you want to be high performance levels, shipping out the same day. You have to adhere to that. So all of our clients, we ship out the same or next business day, regardless on what platform you're on. If that's eBay or Poshmark, Mercari, we're doing those for you every day.
Yeah, so let's talk about a couple things. A couple questions are coming in through the chat that kind of all have to do with the question that I'm about to ask. Zoe Chat asked, how do we map inventory numbers to existing listings? I saw right here, Valerie G said, does the seller wait until the warehouse receives it to list the item? So how about, can you talk us through just the steps from us, sending you the items, what that looks like, and then to when things get listed, how things get listed, all that kind of stuff. And by the way, I'll just answer this one really quickly. Someone asked, where are they located? They are located in Colorado.
Outside of Denver.
Yes.
Outside of Denver.
Right. Okay. So the specific the process is going to vary slightly depending on which primary platform you sell on. We originally started eBliss solely with eBay because that's what we knew. That's what we were going to put out there, and that was working fine. But we quickly realized that there was a need for other sellers as well, those particularly Poshmark sellers who don't have any desire to be on eBay. So we recently added that as an option. So that we're really excited about that. So if you only sell on Poshmark and the other smaller platforms, you can also use our services as well. But the general gist of it, because the two platforms are slightly different, and so the specific mechanisms are different. But the idea is that you will create your listing on the platform, but you won't make it for sale until it gets to us. And each of those platforms has a different way of doing that. And so once we get the items, then we make it live for sale. And then you're also able to cross-post it on any other platform. And then when it's in our warehouse, as soon as it sells, we'll ship it out. So that, I mean, that's it in a nutshell, but it's obviously there's more to it than that.
So for those of you who are on eBay, if you were to do it kind of the eBay way, and that's kind of how I did it because they didn't come out with their Poshmark fulfillment method yet. So the way that we were doing it was it gets listed, but you schedule it for much later. And I know some of you are like, oh, but there's like a 10-cent fee or whatever, but you schedule it out for like, you could do it for as far out as you want. They're going to
3 weeks.
Yeah, you can do it for like 3 weeks out. They're going to get the box though within, like for me, my boxes have been getting there really fast, like too fast. But
I know, right?
like I won't get into that, but they've been getting there really fast. And so what they do is they just go ahead and push the listing live. So whoever asked, do we make the listing once they get it? You actually create the listing. They go into your eBay account. They push the listing live. And I'm going to assume that with Poshmark, they just mark it as not for sale. And then I don't know if you guys go in or if we go in at that point, and then all you do is make it for sale. So the listings are already created. They don't do anything with listing because we as the seller have 100% control over the pricing, over, listing, all that kind of stuff. And the person who had asked the question about what I can't think of the word, but just if they have their own inventory number, how do they reconcile that with yours? Can you talk a little bit about your SKU system?
I'm assuming that's what the question was about. Yes, we have our own SKU system that we provide the stickers to our clients. So they just have to put that number in the custom label or custom field, I forget, or the SKU, depending on which platform it is. And so that when we get the item, we can match that item up with the listing. So it's a very simple process. It's really just one extra step while you're doing your listing flow to add to the listing so that we know where that listing belongs on your platforms when we get it.
And I thought of this before, and I obviously forgot to do it. I was going to bring some of the supplies so I could show you guys. But like Lori said, they send you all of the materials that you need. And so they have like different size Ziploc bags, depending on how big your items are. So you put your item nicely in the Ziploc bag. If you have like a thank you card or any sort of little things that you like to send with your packages, you can put it in that bag. And then they provide all the little stickers. And so the stickers have the SKU number. You put the SKU number in the center of the bag. You type that SKU number into the SKU section of the eBay listing or the Poshmark listing. And I always start from Poshmark and then cross list over to eBay. And so if I put my SKU in the other fields section of the listing, it's like you have to press like additional details or whatever, and you put your SKU there. And then when you cross list, it'll automatically put that into the eBay listing. And then what they do once they get the item is they like kind of add on to that SKU that you've created to put exactly where in their warehouse it is. So when you see that listing later, once it's live, you're like, oh my God, like there's so much to this SKU. But that's because it's in a very specific spot in their warehouse, and it's what helps them find everything quickly. This question popped up from Zoe, if you want to speak to this. So do they have access to your Posh account and see when something sells and ship it same or next day? How does that work?
Yes, for the Poshmark sellers, we would have to have access to your account. Poshmark doesn't, to my knowledge, have any sort of permission program. So yes, obviously our clients would have to be comfortable with that. But it's my understanding that in order to have anybody work for Poshmark, you would have to have it that way. So that's what we've been doing so far. And yes, we ship every morning. So basically we would go into your Poshmark account, whatever was sitting there waiting to be shipped, will get shipped that morning. That's why we say it's either the same or next business day, because if something's sold in the middle of the night, it's going to get shipped that morning. So, but if it ships, it sells in the middle of the afternoon, it'll get shipped the next business day. So, I mean, it's probably, I would say most Poshmark sellers might see an increase in their shipping speed because I know they give you guys a lot longer than eBay does usually to do that. So, yeah, so that's how that would work.
Yeah. And, like I had shared, I started with them before they came out with this ability to use eBliss as just a Poshmark seller. And so, and you guys, if you've been watching my channel, you know that I sell on like 8 billion different platforms. And so the way that it works is really simple. Just, I think every platform that I sell on, with the exception of Shopify, unless I'm missing something, but every platform that I sell on, when you sell something, they email you and they email the shipping label as an attachment. And so all I do is I forward that shipping label to my account manager, and I put the eBay like SKU in that email so that all they have to do is, okay, they know where it is in their warehouse, even though it wasn't an eBay sale. And whether it sells, on Kidizen or Mercari or wherever, they have the email with that shipping label attached to it. And so they're able to still ship it out regardless of the platform. The only, you just have to send them the labels and stuff. So now, you can kind of start with Poshmark or eBay, it seems like, which is really cool, but you can also still sell from multiple platforms. I know someone had asked that. Right. Veronica said, oh, so you provide the packaging materials and labels, et cetera, too. That's nice. So that does factor into cost as well. Yeah.
Yeah, just to clarify, the outgoing label, the shipping label to the buyer is still borne by the seller, by our client.
Yes. All right. Another question that someone asked that is a really good question is, if I'm in Miami, would service be prohibitive to ship into their company due to being so far away?
No, actually, no, that wouldn't be at all. We service all the contiguous 48 states. We can't handle Puerto Rico, Hawaii, or Alaska,
right?
Because of the inbound cost would just be too much. But no matter where you are in the U.S., we could handle that.
That's awesome. This is another great question. How does it work for existing inventory? Would you delist, then send and relist? Thanks, Melissa. That's a good question.
Right. That depends on which platform you're on because it's handled a slightly different way. But it depends on also how many items you have in your inventory. We either use the time away feature on eBay, or we just extend the handling time to allow for the transit time for them to get to us. We typically don't like to onboard, we call that onboarding, the initial inventory, more than about 250, 200, no more than 300 items at a time, because it becomes unwieldy for the seller and for us. So we've learned that through experience. So say if you have 1,200 items, we probably would onboard you in a series of 4 shipments in chunks. And by the time, those weeks have gone by, we've gotten all your inventory.
So yeah, Melissa, hopefully that answers your question. I personally feel like it would make sense to delist and then send and relist, also just for the sake of just starting fresh with your inventory and starting fresh with your Poshmark closet or eBay store or whatever. That's never a bad thing. I feel like to just, it's like all brand new listings, and maybe you'll find stuff that you're like, oh, this isn't even worth my time or whatever. But
right. That would be an option. I mean, you could do that if you wanted to. That would be your choice. But that's not something we've made part of our process because most of our sellers want to get sales while they're going through this process. And we wouldn't want to say, shut down your store just to get us your inventory. But if that's what you wanted to do, I mean, that's certainly an option.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I answered this question, but adventures in Polish land, can you still cross-list items on multiple platforms? Hopefully I answered that. If not, you can, add more clarifying questions in the space below. Someone said, so what if the item sells before it gets to them?
Well,
technically, that's not supposed to happen.
That's what I was just going to say.
I'm laughing because you guys, I'm like the worst client. I'm like the worst client ever. I've made all the mistakes, which is why I can speak from experience of someone who's done everything the wrong way. Like today, my account manager had to ship out 3 things that sold while they were en route to eBliss because I did it wrong. So they're not supposed to.
Right. If you follow the procedure and what we have laid out, that really shouldn't happen because it really shouldn't be live until we get it. So if it happens, it might be an oversight or something, but it shouldn't happen on a regular basis.
Yeah. You guys, I listed some like high end stuff. Like I've been going to this consignment store and I had, okay, it's like high end for me, not maybe for some of you, not for, I saw Daniela in here, maybe not for you, girl, but for me, you know, like when I find Vince and Eileen Fisher and stuff, I'm like, whoa, I'm going to make $1 million. So I sent them some stuff and I, you know, had it on Poshmark. I forgot to mark it as not for sale. And then I pushed it out to eBay. I think I did remember at least on eBay for a couple of those items to make sure that it was listed as, scheduled out for later. But like my like really expensive items, like 2 of them sold like one within 20 minutes of me listing it. And I was like, oh my God, I forgot to put not for sale. Like it was like stuff like that. And so I just, you know, sent the emails to my account manager, prayed that the box would get there as quickly as possible, and they got shipped out. So it was fine. But Thrifty Space Queen is not supposed to happen. So it shouldn't be an issue. Blue Skies had a great question. Who works out delivery issues and returns?
Yeah, returns, I'll focus on that. We have all the returns directed to go back to the client's residence. We're not going to handle the returns here. Unless you're the type of reseller that is using us and traveling the country. We do have a few clients that are doing that, where they're in a van, they're in an RV, and they can't have their items shipped to them in an RV.
Right.
So we accommodate them. And most of the time, that's a decision the seller will make because they may not want to receive that item back. So we work with that. And then delivery issues, we have USPS come to our warehouse and they scan all the items here before they leave. So once they are in the possession of the carrier, it's no different than if you were to drop it off at the USPS. So I think that answers that.
Yeah.
Issues.
I think so. And again, if not, feel free to continue leaving, you know, clarifying questions. This is a great question. And I think you can answer this question, but also a question that I have for you guys is, who is your ideal customer? Like, you know, not saying like, if you're not this, that you're a bad reseller or something, but you know, this business model doesn't work for everyone, and that's okay. So if you could speak to, you know, Valerie's question, which is, how do you all reconcile when a seller doesn't send all their inventory? And then also just talk about, so who are you trying to attract as clients?
Ideally, our clients are those somewhat seasoned resellers who have kind of, you know, they know what they're doing. They're kind of well on their way. Most of them have hit a plateau where they just can't seem to get to that next level. We don't really have a true minimum other than to say that you have to have been reselling for a decent amount of time to show that, you know, this is something that's not just going to be a fad, or just, you know, you're not going to come in and out, because there is a lot of upfront costs that we have to put in, and effort and time, and to get you onboarded, because we are paying for it and that sort of thing. So we just want to make sure that our clients, not that they're in it for the long haul, but that they have an established business that they want to either maintain or take to the next level. So, and then in terms of reconciling when a seller doesn't send all their inventory, the way we can get around that is you can put different inventory on a different account. I don't recall though if Poshmark allows that. You can only have one Poshmark account.
Yeah, typically you can only have one. I mean, there have been people that have somehow, you know, been able to manage opening another Poshmark account, and maybe some of you guys can speak to this, but they really don't want people to have more than one Poshmark account.
Right.
But I mean, I do know people that have more than one, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to elaborate on that.
Yeah, on eBay, you can have multiple accounts. And so that's, if you don't want to sell and send us all your inventory, or some of your inventory doesn't qualify because we do have size and weight restrictions, that's fine. It's just, it's better if those items are not on the account we are working off of, because it gets very confusing very quickly when certain things are here, there, and like, it just doesn't work out very well.
Yeah, but that's true. I mean, yeah, and I'm not reading the newest chats. So Melissa said, you can ask Poshmark for permission to open a second closet. I have two. Melissa, if you want to drop in the comments how you did that, that would be really helpful. So it looks like you can. And the reason they're saying it would be nice to have two Poshmark closets, two eBay stores, is I think Dave mentioned earlier, really kind of the threshold that they're thinking of is like, if you're selling items for less than $25, it's really not worth it to have them store it and ship it out for you. Unless you just have like 4,000 listings the way that they do, then maybe it is worth it to you. But, that's kind of like the number that he threw out. So maybe you have 2 Poshmark closets. One is for everything $25, $30 and under. And then the other one is for everything else. And you send all that stuff to them. And same with eBay. It is easy to have 2 eBay stores. So you have one for the lower priced items. Maybe that's where your auctions are coming from, that sort of thing. And then you have another eBay store that is your higher priced items, and it would make sense to send them everything there. So hopefully, Valerie, I think you were the one that asked that. Hopefully that answers your question. Really quickly, I saw a super chat, which is so sweet and so unnecessary, but Crystal, the Crystal Bear, you were so sweet. Thank you so much for the $2 super chat. I really appreciate that. Okay, this is another great question from Nicole at Soul Inspired Seller. How often can you send in inventory?
Yeah, well, there are no restrictions. You could sell it, send items in once a week, and it really depends on what we would ask is we would love to set up a regularly scheduled, anticipated receiving window with all of our clients, and that's because we want to make sure those items are pushed live within 24 to 48 hours. We just don't want to have haphazard shipments coming in case there's a bottleneck with people, if we're onboarding people, et cetera. So there is no minimum, there is no required amount that could be sent in. If you don't feel like sending in anything 1 month, that's fine. But if you have a heavy month of great sourcing and thrifting and you want to get it into us, you just work with your account manager and we'll set up a window. And once again, we also provide the FedEx label for your items to come into us. And the great thing about this, a lot of our clients, they do their processing, they schedule their listing, they throw them in the box that we provide, and they schedule FedEx to pick it up right outside their door. They don't even have to carry the box to a FedEx drop off or distribution center, which is what they love. So they don't have to do any carrying heavy boxes, etc.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is nice because when you do create your shipping label through FedEx too, it kind of alerts them on their end because they have eBliss has a very specific laid out way that you do shipping and, all the boxes that you're supposed to check and all that kind of stuff. And one of those things is they can see that that shipment is on its way too. So they really, I don't remember how long you guys said you spent into creating the business, but you flushed out like a lot of different plans. And what was it, like 2.5 years, 1.5 years or something?
Yeah, it was about 2.5 years from the beginning, the thought to when we actually launched.
Yeah. So, I mean, they really, like I said earlier, they're very detail oriented. And, you guys are asking really great questions. They've been asked all these questions before and have an answer to them, so keep going. Oh my God. Okay. I have to scroll down because Nicole, you did not have to do that. Thank you for the super chat. You are so sweet. Okay. This is probably the most important question that we'll get tonight. And it's this from Veronica. Still need this question answered though. Who will take the package stack pictures for Instagram? Does that start? Because if there is no package stack, is it even a real package stack? Like, did you even sell anything? So, do you have photographers on hand? Do you pose with the pictures? Can you superimpose our pictures in? I don't understand what's happening here.
Yeah, I don't think we have that as an option. As a matter of fact, I think the best picture you can say is an empty porch and say, hey, these are you guys, I had all these sales, but this is what I'm shipping out today. I mean, that's really the whole point of this.
Right.
Yeah. So if I don't know, if you want to take pictures of your own items and put that on Instagram, then I don't know, maybe eBliss isn't for you, but yeah, I don't know.
And that brings up a great point. It is really impressive when you see some of these people, like especially those people who do Amazon, not FBA, but like fulfilled by I don't remember what it's called. Merchant. And you see like 250 packages. Like it's pretty cool, but also I like cry thinking about how much time it took them to like ship all that stuff out. And the fact that stuff was all living in their home and there's more stuff than that somewhere, so it's impressive, but it's also like, oh my God, like it's a little overwhelming, you know? So Thrifty Space Queen, we kind of already answered this question. I'll answer the second part if you guys want to reiterate the first part, just because there probably are some new people here. And even if you want to actually maybe talk a little bit, if you want to just explain one more time who you are and what your company does. But one of the questions was, who pays the shipping to get my item to them? They do. And they send you bags and tape. Like they sent me this, I keep meaning to ask you guys, actually, they sent me this like tape gun for the tape to go in, and I don't actually know how to use it. Like I don't doing it correctly. Like I was going to ask you guys to like make a tutorial video because
Maybe.
I'm pretty sure I'm not using it correctly.
Yeah.
But they send you like a tape gun. I mean, they send you everything that you need. They ship huge boxes to you, so you don't pay anything to get stuff sent to them. But if you want to talk one more time briefly about how much it costs and what it is that you guys are doing, what your service is.
Sure. And once again, to reiterate, eBliss was formed to help resellers who are mainly thrifters reclaim their space and get their time back, because what usually starts out as a side hustle, a fun hobby, usually turns into a full-time job for one person. And next thing you know, they don't have any more free time because they have to ship out every day. So that's why we created eBliss. It's to restore the joy and the fun in reselling. Okay. And keeping it profitable and affordable. As far as the costs, our services are broken down, as I mentioned earlier, into three separate areas. It's the receiving of the items on a regular monthly basis. Let's call it that. It's the monthly storage per item. And it's also the fulfillment, which is the picking, the packing, and the delivery to the service, the carrier. So from start to finish, all in, it typically is going to run at a minimum $4 per item and upwards close to $8. And I use $8 as something that typically takes a year to sell. So the one variable is how long is your item going to take to sell. Mm-hmm. So we lay that out there as a guideline for those who are thrifting when they're out in the stores and they find something, as I mentioned, $25. If they find something for that sells for $25 on eBay and they could get it for $1 or $2, yeah, that would probably be worth it. However, if they probably are buying it for $10 at a thrift store, after the shipping label, eBay fees, and all this stuff, they may be left with a couple dollars. So it's probably not worth it. So those are our costs, and so we allow our clients to use that when thrifting in the field.
And I'm going to be kind of selfish here, but I'm going to share. I feel really special because I do have an affiliate link for this, guys. If you did want to check it out, I'd really appreciate it if you don't mind using my affiliate link just to, just because we are having this discussion. And but yeah, if you wanted to check them out, I have that in the description as well. But going back to our questions and comments, Valerie said, "Thank you so much for doing this discussion." You're so welcome, Valerie. But she asked, "What are your size restrictions?" Because you did talk about how there are certain things that you don't allow.
Right. The size restrictions is anything that fits in a 14 by 20 size bag. And then the weight has to be around 6 pounds. I mean, we're not weighing these items when they come through our door, but that does have to fit and close in the 14 by 20. And you can fit a lot of things in a 14 by 20, especially the clothing sellers. You can fit almost anything, maybe not wedding dresses.
Yes.
But yeah, we do have that restriction on there because of our restrictions and limitations for storage.
And I do think a lot of the people who are in this chat right now are probably primarily clothing resellers, but do you also have a lot of people who send you hard goods and other things of that nature?
Yes. And that's what the intention was, to help eBay sellers who do sell wares. And that's another thing. A lot of fashion sellers that go out to the thrift stores, they leave a lot of money on the shelves, no pun intended, literally, because they don't go down the wares because they can't really sell them on that platform. Mm-hmm. So a lot of Posh sellers, whether they cross list to Mercari, that's an extra area to expand your business. So yeah, we handle fashion and wares just as long as Lori mentioned, it fits within that 14 by 20 and it's under 6 pounds.
Yeah. So you're not shipping out rock band guitars and stuff, unless they're the kind that like break down and, that sort of thing. But yeah. And I mean, I think there are a lot of people out there who sell clothes because one, maybe that's what they know, but also because of the storing situation. Like hard goods take up a lot more space, and they're not as like, they won't lie as flat the way that clothes will. You can throw a bunch of clothes into a bin, but with hard goods, like it really does almost become a situation where at some point you're going to outgrow whatever space you're in. And so to be able to move that stuff out to you guys, that's really great. Zoe brings up a really great point. Zoe said, right, for Poshmark, if you sold a bundle and some items were at eBliss and some weren't, that would be a problem. So I guess you have to send them everything. Yeah.
Yes, true. That is correct. That would be one downside to keeping some things for yourself. I mean, I guess you technically could possibly ship them out separately, but that wouldn't be ideal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And a few of you have asked questions that we kind of already covered. I know Thrifty Space Queen was like, I guess I just have to go back and watch this from the beginning later. Yeah, I think that probably is helpful. One question that they asked again is just, so the item doesn't go live until after it reaches them. Absolutely. And then this is kind of along the lines of what we just talked about. What about fragile glass hard goods? Do they accept, assuming they require item to be very well wrapped? If you want to talk about that.
Yes.
That's one area that we wouldn't, we wouldn't recommend. If somebody only sold those items, I don't think they'd be a good fit for eBliss, only because the item is doing a double duty in the shipping. And I mean, yes, you could theoretically pack them very well and get them here in one piece, but we all know that that's not our expertise in shipping. Even though we do ship out big, heavy electronics, fragile glass ware, that type of thing, that is not our expertise. So we wouldn't recommend if somebody was using, that was all their inventory. One here and there might be okay, but not really highly recommended.
Yeah. Because that thing, let's say you live in Florida, it's traveling from Florida to Colorado, and then let's say it ships to like Alaska or something. It's going from, it's a lot of movement for one item. And yeah. Let's see. I thought this was really funny because we were talking about, people were like, you should have an add-on service or package stack add-on service. And Melissa said, you could just take pictures of packages off to the warehouse. Absolutely. Like that is something to brag about. The idea that like, you don't have to ship this stuff out. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm trying to see what else there is. Hi, Amber. So Amber said, your website does a great job of giving cost examples. They're very helpful to understand the cost. Yeah. So if you guys are still a little confused, then definitely you can check out their website.
Yep. One thing, Becky, we just want to definitely add is we love talking to all resellers one-on-one because everyone's business is different. As I mentioned earlier, somebody could get items for $1. If that's the case, then we may be right for you. We wouldn't want to discourage anyone from just looking at our site and disqualifying them. And Amber brings up a good point. She may be interested in learning what, as a percentage of her monthly gross sales, this would be. That's another discussion we have with all of our potential clients, because we would need to know your inventory turnover rate and your average selling price, and we could provide that to you. We have that. We didn't want to just inundate or dump all this information on our site and have it be overwhelming and confusing, because it could be.
No, that's a really good point. It is very case by case. And that's one thing I really liked about them. Even when, we started talking about partnering together in this way, they were like, okay, but let's sit down first and like talk to one another and make sure that this would be a good fit for you to even try out. They're not out here just trying to like take everyone's money and just be like, yeah, like you should just send us your stuff and you should just send us everything and it'll be great. And, but they will actually turn people down if it just is not going to make sense for both parties, and that's why I asked the question earlier too, of like, who is your ideal client? Because they want us to be successful. That's why they created this business. And if by utilizing their services, it's not going to add to your success, then they're not going to take you on as a client. And I do really appreciate that. So it's not as simple as like going to their website and being like, yes, I want to do it. But you have to like schedule a time to meet with Lori and like sit down and have her explain things to you. And you have to tell her about your business. And you have to make sure that it's a good fit. And I really appreciate the integrity that they have to actually say to some people, no, like this is not a good fit. So let's not move forward. And that leaves more space then for the people who it will be a good fit for. So I do really appreciate that about you guys.
Yeah. And we were actually going to call our company eBliss Reseller Partners because we view ourselves as a partner with our clients, our resellers, because we want them to do well. But we settled on solution because we have a solution for reclaiming your space and your time, which is what many people shared is their number one concern.
Yeah, no, for sure. And, again, speaking from experience, and I think there's another question, Ellie, I'll get to your question in a second, but this kind of goes with what I'm going to butcher your name, Morel Van Porten in 1,000 words. If a customer ever needs extra information about an item, would it be possible to have someone check the item?
Yes.
So
that is experience. That is part of our service within reason, of course, because obviously if you, if you're a clothing seller and you don't put any measurements in any of your items, that might be a problem. But, if there's an odd, question or a picture that you missed or something like that, all you have to do is contact your account manager and she will be able to get that information and then she will share it with you and then you will share it with your potential buyer. We do not get in the middle of your potential buyer's communication in any way. So we view ourselves as a facilitator for our clients, which is the seller, from the point that we get your items and then, when it sells. So that middle portion of the process is really up to the seller, still our client. But if we need to assist them with this or that, some information, by all means, that's what we're here for.
Yeah. And to piggyback off of that, eBliss really does have wonderful customer service, at least from the seller's perspective. I know, my account manager, I shared this earlier, if you're late, basically I'm like the worst client because I've made every mistake that I possibly could. But one, she's so prompt, like she sends emails like right away. She responds to every question that I have. She's very polite in pointing out that I did things wrong. They're just really wonderful to work with. I did have a pair of sandals that, they were just like flat sandals and I took pictures of the size and everything. The size was in the listing. The person just wanted they just wanted a measurement of like the length of the sole. That's not a measurement that I usually do. And so I reached out and I was like, I'm so sorry if this is annoying and outside of what, our like agreement is. And if you want to say no, you totally can. But is there any way you could take a picture or just let me know what the measurement of, the sole is? Because someone is asking. And like, she was like, absolutely, sent me the measurement. I was able to get that to, the person. So yeah, they are really, really wonderful to work with.
Becky, any account manager or anyone working on the eBliss side, they first have to work in our reselling business. Name of our reselling business on eBay is Colorado Surplus Brokers. We have two stores, but they still have to work with us and learn about reselling and customer service. So yeah, we're not bringing in just anyone. These people are expert shippers and listers, so they know what to look for.
Yes. And it absolutely shows, and it seems like it. I'll answer this question really fast. And then there's another really cool question that Ellie had asked, but Valerie asked, do they add in thank you cards or stickers if provided by the seller? You just put them in the Ziploc bag as you are getting stuff ready to get shipped out to them. So, for me, I have a thank you card and I just would put in each individual bag the item and then the thank you card on top. I had asked, because like for Poshmark, for example, I don't know when I'm going to stop doing this, but I still like wrap my items in tissue paper and I do the yarn and all that. And I was like, could I do that and put that in the Ziploc bag? They're like, if it fits in the Ziploc bag, like you could do whatever you want. I did not opt to do that for all of those items because I was assuming, many of those items would go to eBay and eBay customers don't care, but they just ship out the Ziploc bag. So whatever you have in the Ziploc bag, that's what gets shipped out. So you have the extra layer of protection too with the Ziploc bag. It's not like they're pulling it out and reusing the bag. It just, whatever you send them in that bag, that's what goes to the customer. Okay, so this I thought was a really good question, and it's kind of in line with what you were sharing, Dave, about your own eBay business. Ellie, I'm assuming that you're asking about their eBay business and not mine. If you wanted to hear about mine, I could share that. Let me know. But the question is, how did you get started, and how do you get your inventory?
Yeah, I started like many other people. I just stumbled upon a thrift store, the Bins out here in Denver. There's 3 Goodwill outlet stores, and I was hooked. I just could not get over the ability to flip items and make funny money. And it was just a matter of like, hey, we just made $100. Let's go out to dinner. It was that much fun. And then I just saw the potential to keep on going. So we grew it into a full-time operation for both of us. And we work together. We love it. It's everything. I've never been happier being a reseller and enjoying this lifestyle. And that's the passion we have. We want to restore and maintain. If you lost that joy in reselling because of the grind and the shipping and the overburden of all your inventory, that's what we're looking to restore. So, but the question was, how do we get our inventory? Because we have 4,000 listings, we ship out actually 10,000 items just in our own eBay business alone. And they're all thrifted items. They're all Goodwill, flea market type of items. Now, that would be impossible for me to personally get myself. So we've taken our business to the level where we have pickers, scouts in the field looking for things for us. So our cost of goods for those items are a little bit higher than if I were to go to a Bins and get it for $1 or $2. I'm paying probably 5 times what I would get it at the Bins for. So, but we realized that that's how we were going to scale. And we wanted to make it to the point where we could have our business run. We could go on vacation for a week and not have to skip a beat. So that's where we are right now. And we couldn't be happier. We just enjoy the reselling business and love working with resellers.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, they were actually on my channel a few weeks ago, and we just talked about eBay because, they've been on eBay for so long. You heard them. They have 4,000 active listings on eBay. That's insane. So they've not only, really figured out eBay, but have also scaled on eBay. But I thought it was really funny. I think it was in that last time that we got together and did a live stream. I think, Lori, you shared, it's been so long since you've had to do your own shipping, and so because we were throwing a lot of shipping questions at you guys, and you're like, it's been so long since
I can do it if I have to.
Yeah.
But you're right. It has been so long that we have been doing it on a regular basis that our shippers are better shippers than we are.
Yeah. And that's amazing. How many people do you guys have working for eBliss?
For eBliss specifically, right now, it's probably 2 or 3. We have 5 total.
Mm-hmm.
They do various aspects of the business, some more than others.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we actually next month we are going into another. We are adding on warehouse space, so we'll be adding more staff. So, it's one of those dilemmas: do you get the space first and fill it up, or do you gradually do it? And so.
Well, and I do think that as the word gets out that Poshmark sellers who are not, on eBay, but just Poshmark sellers, that now there's a system in place for them to send you inventory too. Hopefully that helps you fill up, that bigger warehouse space that you guys have. I think this is a really great question, and it's kind of in line with kind of how I wanted to end tonight, which is, you guys clearly have, since the moment you started your business 8 years ago, you guys have scaled in a tremendous way. And I think one part of that is obviously, having employees and training them properly. And like you said, the dream is to have a machine that works whether you're there or not. So you can go on vacation, and so you can take breaks, and you can do this or that. So how did you find your employees, and how did you scale, and what advice do you have for other resellers who want to scale their business?
Well, our first employee was a friend's son. So we started that way, like many resellers do. But then he went off to college, so we had to replace him. And so we put, I don't forget where we put an ad. We basically put an ad out for, I forget the title was, but we got pretty good response, and we interviewed people. We asked them questions. Prior eBay experience wasn't really necessary as long as they seemed trainable and like they were a good fit. So we hired 2 part-timers about, oh gosh, I forget what year, 2017, I think it was. And they, and then, some of them left, and then we hired others, and we actually haven't hired actual new. Well, actually, that's not true. Last summer was the last time we hired somebody new in a couple of years. So there's very little turnover that we have. We've had our people here a lot. But I have to admit, you have to have the right temperament and the right outlook to be a manager of people, because that's not something everybody has within their skill set. So that's a little tricky. So that's why eBliss is a little bit better, because you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, we actually use ZipRecruiter.
We did that too.
Yeah. And the one thing about eBliss is we established eBliss because with shipping, no one's going to come to your house, pick, pack, and ship your items. You're not going to allow them in your house just to do that. You may be able to have somebody list for you locally, but no one's just going to do the shipping for you. So that's why we wanted to have the ability for resellers to outsource the back end of their business, which is the storage and the shipping, and then move forward with then getting someone to either list and eventually, if they wanted to get to the level that we're at, outsource the sourcing. So we wanted to make it that easy for people to just ease into it without the heavy burden of hiring an employee, because that alone could be daunting.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right, Lori. Like, I actually was a manager for a short stint at a retail store, and you have to have a special temperament, like you said, because it's that fine line of like, you don't want to come across as a dictator, but also you're not their friend. There's so many different nuances to being a good manager. And I know also there's a lot that goes into setting up your employees for success, having systems in place and being able to train them properly. And so it's a lot more than just, oh, you're an able body. Okay, let me give you something to do.
Right.
They may not do a good job, if
That's
you didn't train them properly. So there's a lot that goes into that. Do you have any other tips on scaling other than just, the idea of you could hire employees and whatnot, but just, with reselling, just other ways that people can grow their business or just things that you guys have done from personal experience?
Yeah, I think the hardest part is relinquishing that free labor that you as a solopreneur always provide, the time that you always provide. And I just identify that your time is money and your freedom is money. And that has a dollar amount to it. You should value that more than how effectively you source. So that's probably the trickiest part about delegating tasks, is identifying how much is this really worth to me. So it is easy to say, hey, I'm happy where I'm at with a 50% net margin, when in reality, it's probably best to delegate and scale at that point.
Yeah. And to that point, when Dave just said 50% net margin, if you have no idea what that is, then that's a problem. You probably should know what your net margins are. You need to know your business from a number standpoint. And that's something I think a lot of resellers ignore or just think, oh, that's too much work, or they just don't do it. Yeah. And that's a tip I would give. If you want to scale, you got to know where you're starting from, because you'll want to know where you want to end up. And if you don't know your business in terms of your numbers, and that's just not from an accounting standpoint, that's like statistics within your, every reseller should know, like their average selling price and their inventory turnover rate and things like that. You got to know that information. And we talk to sellers all the time, and they really don't know it. And it's hard to give them good advice if they don't have that information. So I would definitely recommend that.
Absolutely. This is a really interesting question, and it's a good question though. Gwendolyn asked, what if there's a fire or a tornado, or I don't know what kind of stuff happens in Colorado, but
no, well, actually
avalanche, but we're not near the mountains.
No, that's a very good question and a valid point that people should be concerned about. I'll answer that in 2 ways. That's in every business owner's interest to have a business owner's policy on their inventory. And that would be covered in our warehouse very typically. And we can help them get that coverage. We highly recommend that they do, but we don't require it. If they want to sign a waiver that says they're not going to have that coverage, that is fine. So if there is a natural disaster and they lose their inventory they've lost their inventory. If they have coverage on it, then they'll be protected. On top of that, we have our own insurance for our business, our eBliss business, for that a business owner should have that is separate from that coverage. So hopefully either way you'll be covered, but that is really a decision that the seller has to make.
Yeah, and I think that kind of goes along with something that Zoe said, because someone in the chat did ask about, special insurance for items. So you kind of answered, yeah, you should have insurance for your items. But Zoe also asked, she said, I wanted to ask eBliss if things ever get damaged in their storage. Sorry, this is kind of the same question. She just re-asked it. And if so, how is that handled?
So to answer the first part, honestly, in the entire time we've done this, we've only lost one item during receiving. And that was a fluke sort of thing. Unfortunately, it had to be a mug.
It broke.
It broke.
Yeah.
So, so that was the one time. But if something does happen and it's our fault, we will make it right for our clients accordingly. Yeah. So, hopefully we're human. Everybody's human. Mistakes will be made here and there. Hopefully they'll be few and far between. But when they're our fault, we will make it right for our clients. But if it's the client's fault, then, well, that's the client's fault.
And just to add one more thing, Becky, is that we do inventory twice a year for all of our clients. So physical inventory. So what we have here, they'll be able to match up what they have listed. As you know, there could be glitches in eBay or whatever where things disappear. But yeah, we will provide that twice a year so they can match up and have an accurate inventory count.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That sounds like a blast. I would love to be there.
Oh, sure.
It has to be. We do it for ourselves once a year. So it has to be done.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, I think I have like 800 active listings right now, something around that. And it's not the most, it's no 4,000. And I did inventory for the first time in a while when we first went into shelter in place. And I was shocked by the number of things that were in my bins that were not listed anywhere. And I'm like, what in the world? Like, how did this happen?
It happens.
It happens. Yeah.
Yeah. And like you said, things do just disappear off of eBay. Like it's the strangest thing, but listings will disappear and things like that. So that is really cool that you guys provide that service as well. And it's kind of built into everything. You guys, thank you so much for being here. To end, just a couple things. If you wanted to check out eBliss, I do have a link down in the description below. I do also have a link on the banner that you can see in front of you. It is an affiliate link, just so you know. But this is coming from a place of experience. I have been working with them. They have been shipping for me, which has been really cool. I have had to sit down with Lori, just about like, is this a good fit and all that kind of stuff. And I know they're working really hard to reach as many different kinds of resellers as possible, because for the longest time, it was really mainly for eBay sellers, but they're realizing that there is also a need within the Poshmark community or people who sell on multiple platforms. And so it is a really cool service. Definitely, like I said, check them out, schedule a time to speak with Lori if that's something that you're interested in offloading to someone else so that you can reclaim some of your time and space back. I mean, that's one of the things that made my husband the happiest was just, the idea of more space. And so, Ellie asked, when are they coming out with Poshmark? If you want to talk about that really quick.
We personally haven't made an official announcement, but it is out there. So that is something that we're taking calls on right now. So if you're a Poshmark only seller, we'd be glad to talk to you and see if this might work for you. If you fill out the form for Becky's affiliate link, it'll come right to us and we'll reach out to you and give you a link to schedule with us, either a Zoom call, a regular phone call. I guess that's probably, you could come in here too, but most people wouldn't do that. But yeah, it's now.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know I have to talk to them more about that too, because that sounds a little bit more up my alley than the eBay thing. So
Yep.
True.
Yep.
All right. Well, if you guys have more questions, and when I sat down with Lori, I had like a billion. If you have more questions, the best way to get them answered is just to schedule a time to talk with them. And you can visit their website, but like Dave said, it is so specific to each resellers business model, and it's just much easier for them to, answer your questions properly if they're able to sit down and talk to you. So you guys, thank you so much for being here and for
having us.
sharing your service with us and your expertise even on just how to have a successful reselling business, because there are a lot of people out there doing it, but they're not all successful. Like you said, like maybe it looks impressive, but when you actually look at the numbers, you're kind of like, so you guys are amazing. For those of you who were here today for the chat, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys too. That's it for today. Hopefully they'll come back on at some point, but thank you guys so much for being here. See you in the next one.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.